pleased to say, returning to the show after, I'm not sure the last time when he was here actually, it probably might have been the back end of last year actually, but RJ Singh. RJ, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're glad to have you back. Actually, some of my listeners had been emailing in saying I better get you on the show because they've heard of your return, and a few of my listeners had gone back and listened to our previous podcast, which I think we've done a lot on NXT as it happens, and at the time you were commentating, doing the announcing stuff. So I guess that's kind of the main theme of this interview is people just wanting to know what's kind of put you back into the wrestling ring as it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that kind of brought me back. I think last time we spoke, I was, as you said, I was doing commentary for Progress Wrestling. I still am doing commentary for Progress Wrestling.
Sure.
Not on today's show, as it's happening right now, and I'm not there. But so I think last time we spoke, I was doing commentary for that, and I was working with 4FW.
Yep.
As well, in a managerial role as well, and when you're around that much wrestling, and I was kind of, basically a wrestling show just pretty much every month, it's really hard to kind of stay away and, keep to not being in the ring and stuff like that, so... Yeah.
I'm interested... Sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, so kind of this time last year, I kind of started weighing up my options of, like, my personal life and wrestling as well.
Yeah.
Just weighing everything up, and I kind of around Christmas time I was like, I think I'm going to step back in the ring. Like I kind of knew by then that I wanted to get back in the ring again. So that kind of is what kind of gave me that push really. I mean, because British wrestling is such a hot property right now, and there's loads that's happened in this year gone by, and the tail end of last year and this year that's just proven that. So, like I said, really, really hard not to be part of it.
Sure. I'm interested to know, when you retired, when you did retire and come out of the ring, I'm interested to know, as you were a wrestler at the time, how did you kind of get rid of your gear, or do you still keep that around, or did you try and remove everything?
I sold a lot of it off, actually. I did sell stuff.
Yeah.
A couple of bits I sold to other wrestlers,
sure.
Handy things like knee pads, boots, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And other things I sold off to private collectors, people who just like collecting that kind of thing. Hope it doesn't get too weird. But
there's plenty of them out there.
So I ended up selling a large chunk of all my wrestling gear, and I had such a huge amount as well. So. I sold various bits and pieces off, so when I sort of came back earlier this year in February, around January time, I kind of went around getting stuff made again, so, I was like, right, I need some new stuff, I better get in contact with some gear makers and stuff and get some new bits ready, so I think it was around sort of December,
right.
At the end of December last year, I started contacting gear makers, and I was like, well, I think I'm going to be back in the early part of next year, so I'll, started around getting some new gear made and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just asked that because, I mean, I'm guessing if you got rid of, most of your stuff, your mindset when you kind of came away from the ring must have been, that's it, that's the end of that sort of part in your life, and that was obviously your desired sort of request at the time, I guess, for yourself going forward. But obviously, like you said, you were around the business quite a lot. You were doing the announcing stuff. I mean, when you was there commentating and you're watching guys, was there many times where you sort of got the urge to kind of want to be that guy that you was kind of commentating for, and you're like watching things and going, oh, I could have done that better, or that kind of stuff? Did that give you the urge?
I'm not sure about the I could have done that better part. No, but there was some stuff I watched and I was like, oh my god, this is phenomenal. I really wish I was. But I mean, I saw so many good matches. I mean, that was the benefit. That is the benefit. Sorry, doing commentary for Progress Wrestling is being able to watch some of the quality of the matches and the crowd. I was very fortunate. I was doing commentary on the Jimmy Havoc versus Will Ospreay match last year, when Will Ospreay won title off Jimmy Havoc, ended Jimmy's 18-month or however long title reign. And it was phenomenal just being able to sit and watch that, and being able to watch all that, and then you know, you watch stuff like that, and then you that sort of innate desire that you have as a wrestler kind of comes back, and you think, you know, I wish that was me in the ring, you know. And I think this year one of the hardest ones to sit and watch and think of, which was the Cruiserweight Classic qualifying matches that took place at Progress Wrestling as well.
Yeah.
Which was I'm trying to remember now. It was Jack Gallagher and Pete Dunne was one match, wasn't it? And Zack Sabre and Flash Morgan was the other match as well. And that was amazing to watch, because like you knew where those matches were going, and then obviously went on to the Cruiserweight Classic. And that was, you know, when I was watching that, I was like, no, I definitely want to be back in the ring at this point, because, you know, like, as I said, wrestling is British wrestling in particular is such a hot property right now. So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely coming a long way here, because when you're doing this podcast every week, I get a sense, because I always have more emails about British wrestling and all these shows picking up, whether it's a live event or just the amount of talent that we have in the UK currently is quite staggering. I think we spoke about that last time, but since then it's gone up like another 10-folds really. Like I hear so much more positive things about wrestling. Like, you know, you used to get those shows you'd go to and it would be in like a, you know, you'd turn up there and it was like a leisure centre type environment, but you know, you would get like somebody who hasn't refereed before, that kind of thing, and it would look all quite awkward and sort of not as glamorous as what we see in the US. But nowadays, I mean, it's picked up to the point where everything is done so tidy and professional, like up and down the country. Like, it's just the whole industry in this country at the moment is a very high standard, I would say, currently.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you do still get those kind of shows that you just described. I mean, but you know, the shows that are getting a lot of attention, the production values really are something else. Like, you know, NGW has a really great setup.
Yeah.
There's What Culture Pro Wrestling, which has sprung up very, very quickly. You know, has got really great production values, and obviously has got their followers on YouTube. You know, Progress Wrestling, Rev Pro, IPW, all these guys, as you said, you know, they've really stepped up their game in terms of the production of the shows, but also getting their content online as well, which is such a massive difference. And I think, you know, you know, it used to be when what I would say about, I don't know, 2000, 2008, 2009, all around that period, people were just thinking about, let's get onto TV. And of course, now we know that TV has changed so much, and the way we consume TV has changed so much. It's actually, you know, I think for a lot of promotions, it's about getting their content online and out there available to people, and I think that's what's made such a big difference. Yeah,
no, I would totally agree. Well, we've got quite a few questions for you actually, RJ. So I'm gonna break into some of those questions now, and we'll go back to them sort of at the end of this one. So if you don't mind answering some of these stuff, we've got first questions from Steve. I've watched RJ Singh, brackets Ross Jordan, the Little Dragon, for a long time now. Just wanted to know, who in the old FWA did you most enjoy working with, and why?
I'm wondering which FWA he means. He means the very old FWA.
I'm taking it. That's where he's coming from here. He's put on the end of it as well. Also, in the UK wrestling scene, are all the promoters good for their word in your experiences?
Okay, we'll start with the first one. We go back to FWA. I mean, to be honest, like in FWA, Rockstar Spud, or you know, just Spud as he was known back then. We wrestled loads of times back then, not just in FWA as well. We did do a lot of stuff in FWA together, and you know, around that period as well. Like, me and Spud kind of grew up in wrestling together. We came from the same sort of crew of guys, like me, Spud, Sticks, El Ligero, Chris Travis. Like, even though we were all from like different parts of the country, we kind of all ended up in the Midlands together, and we worked a lot of shows together then. And
classic
kind
matches.
of a lot of my early.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I was just saying classic matches, all those ones.
With those guys.
Yeah. Have you had any sort of bad experiences with promoters in the UK scene as it is?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not going to name names or anything, but you know, I've had like, you know, you kind of, sometimes you get promised things which never happen, or you're like this is going to happen, and then something completely different. I mean, to be all in all, I feel I've been pretty lucky. Like, I haven't really had a load of bad experiences. You know, promoters who aren't very good at what they're doing don't tend to last very long anyway.
Sure.
You know, you kind of hear horror stories, especially like you know, the stories that went round, like one PW and all that, were just absolutely awful. You know, but I mean, none of that ever happened to me. So. So you know, in my experience, I've kind of you know, I don't know if it's lucky or whether just I managed to work with really good promoters.
Yeah.
But like I said, those who aren't very good don't last and didn't last very long.
Yeah, and do you? I mean, if you ever did come up to anything like that, would you always have like a set rule in your mind, like if they let me down once or twice, that's 3 strikes and you're out, or was it just sort of a take it by each thing as it came sort of thing?
Yeah, you kind of have to take things as they are, because stuff happens sometimes. You know, you get the occasion stuff happens to promoters almost sometimes beyond their control. I mean, if you're lucky, they've done everything they can, and, you know, but sometimes things can still go wrong for them, and it's a little bit out of their control. So you kind of have to evaluate everything on a kind of, you know, show by show basis, really. You know, but I don't think I've ever had a promoter who's let me down constantly. I think if there was someone who did that to me, then we wouldn't be working together.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. Next question. Peter's emailed in as well. He's also got a question about the more recent FWA. So very FWA themed so far. He's put. Do you think the recent showing of FWA was on almost too early, considering everything that's been streamed now? Was it ahead of its time?
I mean, I think. Do you know what? I almost feel like, and I might be completely wrong here, but I kind of feel like that FWA, what they attempted, the kind of 2009 version, if you want to call it that, was kind of almost a blueprint for how wrestling has panned out now. I think they tried a lot of things, like they were trying with that YouTube channel, they're kind of, you know, putting out weekly content and things like that. And I think they were trying to do TV, and, you know, they were trying to film their shows like they were TV, and, like, you know, all that kind of thing. So I think they were kind of blueprinting for what would come after them, because again, you know, they kind of, you know, wrapped up around 2011, 2012, and that's when a lot of other companies then sprung up. Yeah. And, you know, had all that kind of success. So, you know, and like before, you know, I think FWA back in the early 2000s blueprinted a lot of what was to follow. Sure. In terms of wrestling as well. So yeah, I mean, whether it was, you know, I don't think it came about too early. I think it came about at the right time, and they tried something. It wasn't financially successful, but then, you know, look what's come out of that. You know, some of the amazing stuff that's come out since then. So yeah, it was as you know, like I said, yeah, definitely a kind of an early blueprint. I can't even say it. Blueprint of what was to follow.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Think about it. Gavin now has a question. As a wrestler, have you ever come up to the point of just before a match refusing to do a spot because it might seem to be too dangerous, or you just don't know your opponent as well as you should? Yeah, that's his question.
Yeah, I mean, I've not done stuff if I thought, you know, like I said, I feel very lucky in terms of who I've worked with in the past, and promotions I've worked with, and wrestlers I've worked with. But if I really did consider something too dangerous, or if I was uncomfortable with doing it, then I would absolutely say I'm not happy to do that. And I think, you know, you have to do that. I've seen far too many wrestlers do things which are dangerous and get hurt, and so I kind of say to people, no, I'm not happy to do that. That's not what, you know. Like I said, I haven't really had to do it.